Welcome to Games and Gimmicks, the podcast discussing video games, professional wrestling, and everything in between. I'm the poor-ass gamer alongside a newly mustachioed
Jesus, no.
E. Huffy. I'm just looking at your mustache.
It's not
looking at it.
It's God.
What?
I
like
at 33 years old, puberty is still a struggle.
It's fine. I
So
didn't
it's
even grow like a full beard or anything until I was like 28 or 9 or something like that. So
Well, here I am, 33. Still can't happen. So, that didn't help me at all. Thanks for that. Greetings and salutations, everybody. I appreciate that. I really do. It's leaving today because it's gross.
because they brought it up.
Now it's got to go. Now it's got to go. Everybody's going, what the hell am I listening to? What is this?
This is Mustache Talk, a
Mustache
new radio
Talk. Yes, Man Talk.
program about mustaches.
Yeah. Isn't it going to be great?
Oh, as I almost knock everything over that we're in. I've recently changed over the studio here.
Maybe a
as it is.
disaster.
It's better than it was before, at least space-wise. But what are we talking about, Eric? Oh my God!
Well,
we're here.
wow.
We're talking about DC and movies,
Yeah.
and getting back into that topic again, as we usually do.
I think we're here to, as it's the end of the week, the beginning of a new one. There's been a lot of noise in the geek world about superheroes and killing and maturity and innocence and all these squabbles. So we're here. After this week has gone through and it's all died down, we sneak right in to give our 2 cents on all of these topics. So we have a lot of different things that we're going to cover about that. Obviously, this all really started last weekend. Was the Zack Snyder Director's Cuts event at his old school in California.
You were sending me things about that, like updates about it's going to be live streamed and
Vero had a live stream, which was really cool. So I watched both of them. I watched there was 3. There was Dawn of the Dead. I didn't watch Dawn of the Dead. Great movie though. But I watched the Watchmen Q&A, which was the biggest. Boom, that's where all the craziness happened. And then the Batman vs Superman one, which was an obvious shit show. We're not going to recap those. We're going to talk about the little bits and pieces that have come out of it. But what happened was Snyder kind of finally cut loose and gave his 2 cents as to why his movies are the way that they are.
Yeah.
And the internet, as it does, cherry picks very few items from bigger pieces and then runs hit pieces on it just to get clicks, because for whatever reason, Snyder's a clicking machine. You bring up his name, website traffic just skyrockets.
It's that and the whole nature of the bungling of the DC cinematic universe thing that, like, obviously now because of the Snyder stuff has become we're more well aware of, like, people in the background making those decisions and changing things and making it harder for directors to put a different vision out there. So yeah, like seeing some of that stuff about this is like a paid event for big fans and stuff like that too. People who wanted to actually have their questions answered by Zack Snyder,
and it was all going towards to benefit remodeling of the theater of this school, the auditorium. This was for a good cause. It wasn't just because he thinks his shit don't stink and is going to display his movies wherever and rack in the money, because that's not what he does. This was a wonderful opportunity. I was going to go. I had the tickets in the shopping cart ready to go.
Sure.
And then I saw the airfare price and was like, I'm going to stay home.
Because you were thinking about this for your birthday.
And watch it on... Yeah, because the Batman vs. Superman event was on my birthday. I thought that would have been pretty cool. But I definitely would not have asked him who his favorite fucking Spider-Man was. The fuck? Anyway.
Tobey Maguire.
Yeah, motherfucker. That's fine. Why would you ask that?
Tom Holland's nice.
Why would you ask that question when you're sitting in front of a director you just watched his penultimate superhero movie, and you could ask him about the editing and anything related to that movie.
Yeah.
You choose what's your favorite Spider-Man?
So it's kind of like, how people use the term like man-child and stuff a lot, and maybe we're gonna kind of get into that with some of Snyder's comments and stuff there too. But there's like a lot of people, and we're part of that group too, but we're in a different way. It's like we grew up, but we didn't outgrow the things that we enjoyed, It's
Right.
we are not hating on anybody for liking stuff that they like when they're kids and liking it now.
No.
Nope. We're not going to be even super completely positive over everything that Zack Snyder has put out there in terms of movies. I just watched The Watchmen, so I have some opinions about that movie as a whole, being a few years that I haven't seen it. And like in general, I think that like, you know, just putting this out there at the beginning as we talk, like, you know, we're not. I had conversations with people on Twitter as soon as this stuff started coming down, because it was just like, you know, there's a lot of different opinions about what people think constitutes a superhero movie, superhero character,
right.
You know, their vision of the superhero character.
That's the piece,
which is the complication in all this. But I think it's like the larger point that I was making with people online was like, look, this isn't what we call an interpretation. A lot of times directors are given a piece of material, and they have to figure out what the fuck am I going to do with it, because they've been making this goddamn movie since 1989. So what the hell am I going to do with this movie and this character, and try to make it relatable or new or interesting or anything, right? Or even just a movie, right? Just a movie about Batman. Like, complications aside, that's... Like, we can see 1989 Batman
there it
here,
is.
right? Like, you know,
Hey.
like it's been around and in the culture for so long. It's been around since before that with Adam West and everything there too, and the TV shows and stuff. And now we're at this new age where the superhero is the be all end all of movie making and everything, and it's what these very diehard super fans want to see. They want to see a particular vision that is specific to their brain. And even like, imagine this, you and I are both given $1 million budgets, like, you know, enough to make a movie and everything. You and I have enough experience that we probably could fumble through making a movie because we understand cameras and editing and shit. But imagine that, like, both you and I were given the same amount of money, and we're both tasked with making a Batman movie. And it's like, the director just comes up to you, it's got to be dark and gritty, just like The Dark Knight, and it's got to be realistic. And you're like, oh, fuck. Like, and then they're like, oh, also, we're giving you $100 million, so you need to make like $200 to $400 million back, so that way, you know, it's like the investment's worth it and everything, because otherwise, fuck you, we'll never let you make a movie again. So take that into context. Like, everybody, think about that like two separate people making the same movie with the same budget about the same topic could end up with completely different results. Or if you want everything to be fucking homogenized and the same, we could make exactly the same fucking movie and have the same 10-minute sequence in the beginning where fucking Bruce Wayne's parents get brutally murdered, and then we move on, and then like we know the beats of these characters, and we've talked about this many times on the podcast before, that Batman's a very hard character to write out of that creative box that he's in right now. I think what Snyder presented to these people was a harsh telling of what they didn't want to hear, basically. And that's all it was. It was one person telling his vision of what these movies were. And sorry, now I've talked too much, but I'm just saying. But
That's a lot to take.
What were your thoughts? Because obviously it started getting controversial. You could maybe tell us about what some of his controversial statements were.
I mean, I can paraphrase, you know, things, because look, the live streams are. I encourage everybody to actually watch the whole thing.
Sure.
Go to Vero. It's free. You don't even have to have an account. If you do want to have an account, you can sign up. It's free. Watch them. It's fantastic. Get the full context of what was said. Don't go to fucking Collider or Variety or all these asshole websites.
Even Twitter was doing that too. It was only taking out content.
Taking cherry picking and shit. So, so I'm not gonna lie. When the biggest one that came out was when he was discussing, Watchmen, and then it then transitioned to, and then somebody, came up to me and said, hey, Batman killed a guy, and then he goes into his fuck tirade, grow the fuck up, wake the fuck up, you're living in a dream world. His point was, you got to look at it this way. When he said that, I lost my shit, I cheered. I thought it was hilarious.
I loved it. I loved that too.
I was just like, thank you. Again, and as you mentioned, it's one man's interpretation of a character that's been around for 80 years.
Yeah.
You have to shake things up a little bit.
Right.
And so he was pretty much, here's a guy who was tasked with bringing Watchmen to the screen, to the big screen.
Yeah.
Ain't no easy feat.
Yeah.
And it's dark. It's gritty. It's not fun. It's not quippy. It's not.
Yeah.
So when you make that movie and you then transition into, okay, now I'm going to give an interpretation of our pop culture icons here, Superman and Batman.
Right.
What do you expect a man to do who just came from Watchmen and was picked by Christopher Nolan of all people, like, hey, I think you're the guy that can bring Superman to the modern world because, the Christopher Reeve take did not work in Superman Returns because nobody wanted that anymore. We're way past that type of imagery.
Right.
So, I mean, what do you expect him to do? And that's where he gets, when he said, I'm down the fucking road from you guys, he means, I did Watchmen.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to go back and make a fucking, a Captain America or an Iron Man or, you know what I mean? A more lighthearted, happy-go-lucky type thing.
And here's the thing, right? So to that end, I also made that point to people online that, like, this is the difference between, like, two sides of the coin, It's like if we're talking, which I paraphrase, and I was wrong in terms of how I paraphrased, but I was like, if you want stuff that's more action-y and things sort of work themselves out at the end most of the time, then you're going to typically watch a Marvel movie. If you want a movie that has more, and this is the thing, I don't necessarily always like dark and gritty in terms of a movie.
Absolutely.
That's a
Absolutely.
point to put out there most of the time, is that, like, you can dislike things because of a particular theme. That's totally okay. If you didn't like any of the Zack Snyder movies because of the style or the coloring or whatever the hell, even if it wasn't even him doing the post-processing on different scenes.
Even stuff like the Dark Knight trilogy. If you didn't like there are people that do not like that. It's fine.
I did not like the Dark Knight Rises.
There you go.
But I loved just the Dark Knight, like, it was just, there's certain things where I go, I love dark and gritty, and other times I don't. But I think I made a larger point of saying that I was like, oh, Marvel movies are just simpler and easier, and, like, you leave typically with a better feeling. But even that, what I said was wrong, because over the length of those 27, 37 movies, whatever the hell it is, it does get darker. As we got to where Endgame, but Infinity Wars, when we get to that point, I love that movie because it took a chance on doing the things that DC typically did, which was like, hey, we're gonna fucking kill that character, or we're gonna put them in this situation that they are not gonna rise out of, but maybe they will. And a cliffhanger is a great fucking thing for movies. Don't do it enough. But, like, seeing that in Infinity War was like, oh, cool. I sort of like this now. And it was just enough of that turn into the dark. But then again, when you look at the Zack Snyder stuff, it's very much, it starts there. Like, it's there. And, like, the important thing to take out of all this is that characters you talked about this before. We need to stop attacking directors directly if they don't do some shit that you don't like, because this is the thing. If they're a horrible fucking person, like if they're like a director that, like, got away with some crime, which we constantly always hear about in Hollywood these days, like, oh, they fucking did this horrible thing to this person. Yeah. Fuck that guy or that person, right? It's not a Harvey Weinstein. If it's Harvey Weinstein, fuck him, right? But like, this is Zack Snyder, like you were talking about before. Does a lot of charity things, does a lot of good stuff. Married, has kids, like, nothing on that we know of that would say that he's a bad person. So when I look at this stuff overall, it's like we need to give directors and creators. Remember that term? I fucking hate that word. But these are actual creators. These are people who are creating live imagery out of nothing, Don't treat them like shit, because they put a certain amount of creative energy into this stuff that people who don't do that would never understand. Draw storyboards, shot composition, the riggers, the people running the lights, the people like setting up scenes, blue screens, green screens, all that stuff. It takes fucking work.
Right.
And for you to go into an audience, to the person who made a movie, who tried to do something different, and you tell them, well, that's not my Batman.
Yeah.
It's like, then that's fine. It's fine, but you're wasting, like you said, you're wasting a fucking opportunity to ask a real person who has done the process, shown us that he can take content that really shouldn't adapt itself to movies, and has done it, and then we treat him like shit because he didn't do the movie I wanted in my head, which the movie in your head is like, you ever seen that clip on The Simpsons where like Homer's talking, or somebody's talking to Homer, and then he's like, yes, Homer, and he's like thinking it's like a chicken and a cow dancing, like that's what your fucking movie would be if you tried to make Batman. Because those people don't have full story ideas. They just want Batman gets the guy and then he wins.
So really, the big fight that ended up coming out as a result of all this vitriol and hate was the whole topic of Batman does not kill.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know me. Lifelong Batman fan. Grew up, and to me, in my life, my personal Batman, the one that I first got attached to, that it was my hero, is Adam West. Okay? Can you... Okay. Well, you have a character, again, as I said, that's been around for 80 years. Gone through different iterations. If it had been like Adam West the entire time, boring as shit.
And it probably wouldn't have lasted.
Right. So, obviously, when people are saying, oh, Batman has a code, he doesn't kill, Batman was a killer originally. He was a gun-toting killer, okay? He killed. He has indirectly killed all through the comics. He has a code, yes, but that's not the only... There is no one way to present something. Because if you do, this is boring. It's boring as fuck. So you do know that in every single movie, he has killed. And in more horrific ways than what Snyder did. So people are ragging on Snyder for when he crashed a car into a semi and, oh my God, there was a guy in there and it crashed him.
When he beat up the goons and like broke those guys' necks and arms and shit.
Oh, he's got a machine gun on his car. Did you not watch Tim Burton's Bat? He had a machine gun on his car. He blew up a chemical plant with 30 people in it. He strapped a stick of dynamite to a fat ass and punched him down a manhole, and he blew the fuck up. He did. But when Snyder comes along and has a guy get crushed by a car, we lose our fucking minds. And look, Adam West killed. Adam West, Batman killed.
When?
Batman the movie, 1966. He kicked a guy in the face, and because he had no atoms in his body, because he was a rehydrated individual, he exploded and disappeared out of the world. He was gone.
That is a form of killing.
You know what? It's a reach, but fuck you. Batman kills.
Yes, he does.
Batman doesn't kill. We can have both. Why can't we have both?
Batman was at once in a Frank Miller comic like a gorilla or some dumb thing, right?
He was just.
It's just like all beefy and weird
just a
looking,
big beefy, broken.
And that's the thing. Their interpretations artistically, even just in terms of how he looks. Snyder tried to bring even some of the imagery of the suit into Batman versus Superman, and I think that's the larger thing that we're getting at here. Is that like you can't tell directors and artists and people to just interpret a character one way.
Right.
Because it's boring.
And you as a fan, I miss the days where being a nerd was not mainstream, is what I'm really getting at. But as a fan, you have to be open to interpretation. And that's what Snyder was saying all along. He
didn't say it in the nicest way possible.
No, yes, he did. You just didn't watch the whole thing.
He just said that one line and everybody got mad.
People are taking that line as that's all he said. If you would keep listening and watching, he said, look, I love that. He goes, it's great that you have that idea of the perfect hero, that my hero doesn't lie, my hero doesn't cheat, blah, 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 blah. He said, but you're living in a fucking dream world, which means you're not open-minded.
Right.
He then also followed up saying, look, I love the Avengers movies. I go and see them, and I enjoy them because it's a different take on a superhero. He's not sitting here saying it's my way or the highway.
Right.
He's saying, look, be open to interpretation.
And I think there's this other side of it, though, too, that's kind of funny because, like, like the natural internet reaction to that, too, as well, is to poke fun at Zack Snyder in terms of this, meaning like, well, Zack Snyder just wants all of us to feel fucking horrible when we go to these movies. Like that's the joke is that well he wants us to be real and he wants it it's like let's do a case in point. Let's just say here's a total joke by itself. Let's say I'm getting married, but we're not sure that the marriage is gonna stay together. And I invite Zack Snyder. He shows up and he goes, "You're living in a fucking dream world," and he knows that my marriage is false. So it's like this stupid concept of like Zack Snyder is like, those things you fucking love and enjoy. That's the way that people are interpreting it. It's like it's like, well, fuck you. You're living in a dream world, motherfucker. Like, no, your grandma dies. Did you know that Santa's not real? Like, shit like that. And it's like, you can poke fun at it in that regard because, he was drinking and, he's just letting it fly at that fucking point. That,
casual situation.
It's like people need to take what you can from this thing because, some of it's a little incoherent. Some of it's very coherent in terms of what he's talking about. And I don't think he wants to he doesn't want people to go to his movies and feel dissatisfied in some way. It's like what you've talked about, where if a movie more or less elicits a lot of different feelings out of you, it's very possible that it's probably a good movie, because you're thinking about a bunch of different things and how they might apply to you, or even how that might apply to that character in the long run, especially for sequels and things that we might get in the future. But it's hard. It's hard for me to ever want to say to somebody who spends all their fucking time editing, putting shots together and everything, that this is the only way that you can make a character, because that's why we're in the situation that we're in with most Hollywood related things, reboots and soft reboots and stuff like that, is because it's just easier to just put something out there that captivated people 20 years ago.
And what's unfortunate is what had happened was, and how the timeline worked. I'm gonna make sure I got my notes right, just because I was typing this out earlier. But so we were in a world where we got the Dark Knight trilogy, which was a little more grounded in reality, a little more of a serious take, and was like, man, this is what's going on. This is what we want. Then Watchmen came out and really was the movie to come out and say, hey man, you don't have to do comic book movies all, this way. You can go this route.
And in fact, you can do pretty much, if you really wanted to and had the time, outside of, I finished watching that last night. And I will say that remembering the comic and where it is, I mean, we talked about this, it's pretty much shot for shot, taking even a few things out that are more like stories that are in the past and asides and stuff like that. There is even a 5-hour fucking cut of that movie that has some of the interlude comic book scenes. There's stuff where a kid's reading a comic in the book, and they included that to string some stuff together.
Right.
But those were totally unnecessary things for the overall. They kept the story grounded in the present as to what's happening. They went back a few times for the stuff that was crucial for Watchmen, and then put it all together and kept you grounded in that timeline of natural disaster or disaster that's created by these people.
So Dark Knight trilogy, Watchmen, we're getting a little bit of a darker, more serious take on the superhero genre. Meanwhile, the Marvel stuff is starting to kick off and really get going. And we had The Dark Knight Rises come out, 2012, and then that was the same year. I'm pretty sure the Avengers came out. 2012, was around that time.
Yeah, it might have been.
So
right
we had
that.
two completely different types of movies,
and those coexisted.
Right.
Yeah.
So we had the darker, a little more serious take on our side. I say our side.
DC side.
Look, I am a
that
DC
side.
guy.
I'm middle ground.
It is what it is. But then you got the Avengers, which I saw and I actually enjoyed, except for the shawarma thing. I did not think that was fucking funny. I thought that was really fucking stupid. So
it was dumb. Oh.
So and then you had the Avengers come out, but the Avengers, that movie hit the $1 billion thing, and then all of a sudden Disney pokes their ears go up and they go, yeah, we got to make everything like this because we need $1 billion. So then what happened was we got this
trail of everything.
This trail of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that's now when the general public who does not buy and read comic books, just keep that in mind.
That's true too.
That to them is that's what we're getting. That's what they think is a superhero movie. So when DC continues on with their trend of now we're going to do for Superman what we did with Batman. We want to give him a set.
Right.
Superman comes in and it's a little more grounded in reality.
Sure.
It's a little bit darker. And this is what gets me, the people who say, oh, it's a brooding Superman. I don't like a brooding Superman. The movie ends with him smiling.
Yeah.
He smiles at the end. So now we have this disconnect where people are like,
it's like, what was that thing? Remember that movie came out? Oh, he broke Zod's neck. Why did he kill him?
Oh, yeah.
That was it. That was all I got out of that movie. I was like, the movie was beautifully shot and well done. And like, it gave us another side to this invincible character that is otherwise completely fucking boring. Christopher Reeve, look, great. It was great. But those movies are exactly what I would expect a movie to make in the 1970s. Like, it's a story that I would expect them to make in the 1970s.
And that's when we got the whole thing where, they had the fight and Metropolis got leveled and people are like, oh my God, the casualties of war. But then you had the Avengers. Yeah. New York got fucking leveled. Nobody batted an eye.
They had like snake ships eating the fucking goddamn buildings and shit.
Yeah.
And
and then I saw, the Batman kill doesn't kill thing also morphed into the Superman kills does not kill, all those kind of things. And what I loved is somebody put up a great defense of Henry Cavill's Superman snapping Zod's neck. Superman killed Zod in the original Superman 2. And he did it with a smile on his face. And he did it when Zod had no powers. Zod had no powers, broke his hand.
Was it when he put him in the little disc thing, the flat thing, and threw him out?
No. No, this was 3. So they're fighting in the Fortress of Solitude. Superman tricks them to remove all their powers. He grabs Zod's hands. He breaks Zod's hand, picks him up, breaks his back against a fucking wall, and he slides into a bottomless pit of abyss. And he dies, and then turns around with a smirk on his face.
Yeah.
Man of Steel snaps Zod's neck. He realized what he had to do to save people.
Because it's and also there's that aspect of like, this is his brethren. This is somebody that came from his family that he also trusted at one point in time.
And then you see the remorse in his face after he does that.
Yeah.
It's like, it was deep. But no, the now mainstream nerd community is like, oh no, I can't have that. Oh my God, my Superman doesn't kill.
Right.
I don't know how to process this. I can't. Holy fuck.
Yeah.
I don't know. So it's just, again, I love the Christopher Reeve movies.
Sure.
Fantastic. Great. I grew up with them. But guess what? I'm open-minded. Yeah. I love these new ones. It's like, you don't have to get so upset.
My uncle was one of the first people that really like kind of got me interested in like superheroes comics and stuff like that. I mean, I've never been a big collector of comics and stuff like that. But I have like the ones that are crucial, the Supermans, like the death of Superman, the series of the different types of Supermans. I have a few Batman ones and stuff like that. I have stuff here and there. But every time I've ever posted on Facebook or anything or social media about one of these DC movies, and like, there's always been backlash, and I'll just be like, it was a good movie.
Right.
You should go see it if you like it.
Right.
If you like these characters. And my uncle will be like, because he gets the whole concept of that superheroes are a multitude of different stories.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be reflective of people, and people are complex. People are not always normally happy. People are not always, brooding, or, they're not... Like, first of all, that term is so stupid too as well. Brooding.
It really is. It really is.
Like, it's Superman, and he's the whole point of that movie was him trying to deal with the construct of like, everybody wants me to fucking help them, but I can't actually do that. Even as Superman, he can go, be a bullet, fly over to one part of the country, fix something. But in that time that he fixed something, somebody else already fucking died. And because of his hearing, he fucking hears everything. So anybody that's calling out for help, he has to fucking deal with that shit all the time. And they sort of put those in those movies, and him struggling with the concept of like, oh, guess what? Everybody's calling you God, and now you gotta be God. And it's like that's where those movies were going. It's trying to understand like these characters at a different level, which that's the difference we're seeing here. Marvel to us is very surface level in terms of a lot of those characters of being like the rogue or the badass, or I don't know. You could take so many terms and archetypes and apply them to different Marvel movies.
Right.
And I'm not saying that surface level is always the case with those movies. It's just that they present it to you with surface level, and then eventually over the course of like 13, 14 movies, because naturally, like with TV series and other stuff, the more time you give a character, the more likely it's going to evolve. Right. Even the actor is going to have some idea as to like what that character's doing or feeling. So, again, this comes back to the concept that you just have to let characters be like real people. They're complex. They're not, simple. And I want to see that more often, because then I'm more interested in those movies than something that's I've used it on here too, but it's a large. It's schlock. It's schlock. It's movie schlock. It's action. It's just there to get your attention for a couple of hours, and it's good for that. But it doesn't elicit any real thinking out of you. It's just kind of like, and they blew up that thing, and then they won at the end.
Well, and the funny thing is, it's clear, a lot of people that were making the argument of, oh, Batman doesn't kill and Snyder ruined my childhood and all that stuff. They clearly either didn't watch Batman vs. Superman or just didn't pay the fuck attention, because that's the whole central story arc of that Batman, is that he's broken. He says it in the movie multiple times. 20 years in Gotham, what has that gotten us? He's a broken man who has now gone beyond his code, and then gets redeemed in the end because of the sacrifice of an immigrant alien who he was hell-bent on killing at first, until he saw the humanity in the alien. You didn't pay the fuck attention. And that's where all that stems from. They're taking their, again,
it's nitpicky
they're
stuff.
nitpicking, they're cherry picking, and not looking at the big picture. So
like that, I remember even just like the criticism of like Batman versus Superman, not even just aside of the whole killing or not killing stuff, was like, this is the thing that bothered me so much, and it bothered other people that I hated it, and it was. Well, no, I didn't hate it. It was just that I hated that other people hated it, and it was that Clark and Bruce's mother were both named Martha. And everybody shit a fucking brick about that thing, like it was some shitty thing that which Martha are you talking about? Like, you know what I mean? Like, to me, that was a revelation in the theater, because I was like, oh, well, they do have the same fucking name, and that was interesting. And I was like, oh, well, that would make sense, because they're both thinking about the Martha in their head, and then they're confused as to how do you know about this person, and then it comes out both our mothers have the same fucking first
lifelong
name.
Batman fan, lifelong Superman fan. I never made that
never even
connection. So in the theater, I look at Rachel, my wife, and I'm like, holy shit. It blew, because in a lot of people, that's where people get the misconception of, oh, why would just saying the mom's name make them snap out of it like that? Well, if you didn't pay attention to the beginning of the movie that was showing how important Batman's mother was to him. I'm not going to go into the whole debate about that movie, but people, they just didn't pay attention. Again, you don't have to like it. That's totally fine, but you're putting you're fighting and putting so much energy into this bickering. Move on. Let the people who do enjoy this, just let them have it. Just step aside.
And especially for comic book stuff, there shouldn't really be, like, you can go out there and you go like, this movie wasn't really well paced, or wasn't really well edited, or, overall it didn't accomplish whatever the hell it was trying to do. Like, you can go down that route and give movies an exact critique. But, like, you don't... Just as an example, you don't hear us shitting on Marvel movies that much as we do make a point of talking about DC all the time. You don't hear us telling people like, fuck those movies, they're shit, don't ever go see them,
Yeah.
never go see them.
I've
like
never-
like,
yeah.
no, because I'm not going to tell somebody that's a fan of that stuff not to go see it.
Right.
Because look, we're living in a golden age of this stuff.
We should be so happy right now.
And we should be happy
Well, I mean,
with
we are.
the opportunity to see different things. We're getting shit that I would have never thought would be a superhero movie. Fucking Shazam,
Aquaman,
Swamp Thing. There's gonna be a Swamp Thing movie in the next few weeks. Like I remember seeing Swamp Thing in Injustice 2 and thinking how fucking cool that looked, and I'm like, oh, maybe if they do something like that, update it. Like, I remember those Swamp Thing movies from like the 70s and shit like that. So
old school stuff.
You could like Toxic Avengers and like you could do different characters and allow fans to who like I'm not necessarily a fan of those characters, but I'd like to see what they're going to do with it. I heard great things about Shazam, and I totally want to see that because it's a comedy, you know, and but it's also not a comedy like Deadpool, you know, in that regard.
What I love is, and you could tell a lot of the reporters that like these press, deal the premieres for this movie or were interviewing like DC producers saying, oh, so is this now, you guys are now on the path where everything's going to be lighter and happier and, happy-go-lucky. And the producers like, well, no, because Shazam is this way. It's a child who's now become a superhero. Right. It has to be like this. But he goes, you can't do that with Batman. You can't. We have an R-rated Joker movie coming out. We have an R-rated Birds of Prey movie coming out.
Can you imagine like a G-rated Batman or like PG Batman? He would do probably nothing most days.
But I know exactly. Well, but see, that's the thing. That's the beautiful thing.
He does that thing where he catches him on the leg and just puts him over a building sign.
Well, that's what the beautiful thing about these characters is, because they've been around for so long. We have if you don't like the Batman that's killing via circumstance or what have you, good, go watch the animated series, go watch the TV show. You have that available to you. Your Batman that you love is there. Go watch it. Stop shitting on the people who want to enjoy this newer take, this adult take. I absolutely was loving the path that these movies were going down because it was different. It was we had the big Marvel universe, and man, kudos to them for creating this massive train of entertainment in superhero movies. And I was like, hey man, we're doing something different here. Obviously things are changing. It's all good, whatever. But yeah, you don't need to just it's just like we had that one fandom little video that we did. Like what you like. Don't pick a fight. Just be, be a happy nerd.
I guess the hardest part of all this is just having to tell people that, like, well, here's the thing: you're never going to change anybody's opinion about this stuff.
That's the biggest piece. We're not going to change any of your opinions.
Like, politics aside, that's maybe like where people have like fluctuations between different things, but like fandom in terms of content that's entertainment purely that they enjoy. They're always going to have an opinion about it, and they're always going to feel like that they need to be vocal about it,
right?
Because it's something that they enjoy,
right?
But again, like with streaming, with all the things that are changing, I just got an email from Netflix that says, "Hey, we're going to charge you $13." So fuck you, Netflix. See you later. Not paying for that anymore for 2 screens in HD. Fuck that shit. No. $13. And so I go to myself, all this stuff is like getting to that route of being connected like instantaneously, and we all have access to the things that we want to watch, but we have to just remind ourselves that, again, like I said to that person on Twitter, it's just like everything is an interpretation. Not everything's concrete. In a couple of years, you're going to get that dumb Batman movie that you want. You know what I mean? They're already making one. They're already recasting Batman. They're already doing this stuff because you can't shut the fuck up about these movies. And that's the thing. Like, just shut the fuck up and watch the movie. If you don't like it, like, I hate having to tell people that shit because it's like, it's one of those things. Like, I got into an argument with somebody on Kotaku about somebody who was comparing screenshots of Red Dead Redemption from one version to the next, and basically they turned up the gamma and the brightness a little bit in that game because that game's so fucking dark most of the time that you can't see anything.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a lot of that going on. So people were doing, that I originally said, like, oh, well, how the fuck can you compare these two things? Because, like, you got to make sure that this shit's all at the same time of day, because otherwise none of it will look the same. There's also weather conditions in this game, so, like, if it's raining at one point, it might not look the same as it did in another point, even if you took those screenshots at the exact same fucking time. And so, like, people got it, and I was like, look, if a gamma change is enough for you to not want to fucking play this game, then don't fucking play the game. But I will when I want to.
Yeah.
And people were like telling me that, like, oh, so your defense of the game is that if you don't like it, don't play it. Yeah, exactly. Because I know it's good and it looks fine.
That's what
Just
I
like
said.
all these fucking movies, they look fine. The pacing's good enough for me. I didn't, even after the fact when we learned all the things about the Justice League movies and everything and how they were edited and changed and recomposited and all this stuff, I still liked the movie when I saw it, the time I saw it. I only saw it once, but I liked it. And it's just, like, let people like the shit that they like and don't get too wrapped up in all that other shit, because it's like, if you want to have a fucking aneurysm at some point in your life, go ahead and just start arguing with people on the internet about things, because that's probably where it's taking you.
That's why I'm not on social media. I don't... just by listening to all that, I was just like, oh, that's too much stress for my life.
Because it's just stupid shit to argue about.
It really is. And well, here, at the end of the day, and what actually warms, my heart, and yes, again, I am biased because I am a DC guy. And look, Snyder's up there with one of my all-time favorite directors with Nolan and Spielberg and all that jazz. Absolutely. What gives me peace of mind with all this arguing, okay, Batman vs. Superman came out 3 years ago. It's still being talked about to this day.
Yeah, you say this. You say this.
Civil War came out 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Who the fuck talks about
Nobody,
Civil War?
Nobody talks
and
about
I'm
that.
not mean that in a slight that,
but comparatively.
I'm just saying that, again, those movies that go outside the box, they're going to be, even if they're critically panned, they're going to be talked about for years to come.
Sure.
And I'm not comparing, this is not Citizen Kane. I'm not saying any of those movies are Citizen Kane. When Citizen Kane came out, it was absolutely panned as a piece of shit movie. Here we are now. It's one of the greatest movies of all time. Considered one, again, all subjective. But that's what I mean. So I take comfort in the fact that, okay, you motherfuckers can shit on this all you want, I guess, but at the end of the day, it's going to be talked about. And I can guarantee you, 5-10 years, Batman vs. Superman, and even Man of Steel as well, is going to be looked upon fondly, and people go, wow, man, yeah, they were trying to do something with that. He was trying to really, do something different with these characters, and that's cool. I dig that.
And it's like it's the homogenization. Like, we come back to that. Like, if Marvel has the standard of put out these many movies a year, you're going to get a pretty standard movie each time, and while those all filter into a larger plot, which I greatly appreciate about them, that they were able to string together that many movies. That's
incredible.
It is, from our perspective, it's a lot to jump into the Marvel universe if you haven't been there and you haven't been following along a lot. DC stuff is really pretty simple. Just get in and watch it, and that is the advantage of that stuff.
Yeah, they're in the mode now. It's just they're gonna tell a story. They're gonna release a movie, tell a story. They're at a point to they're not gonna do the shared universe thing. That was never the overall plan.
No.
When Snyder came in, he had a 5-part arc pretty much boiled out.
I saw that original like icon thing that they had all the images for the DC expanded universe for the stuff that he was originally planning, and now like a few of those movies are gone.
And it was when he was done telling his story, it was then gonna hand off, and then have everybody do whatever they wanted to do. They were never really gonna do that shared universe. It was Warner Brothers that wanted to, because they saw what was going on in Disney and they got greedy, like,
and they should just kept it making original content.
Yeah,
they
should have
one-off like sort of stuff.
Should have just stuck with your plans, whatever. So it's funny that you brought up Justice League. It's kind of funny if you do go back into our archives, you can find our Justice League review episode, which came out a couple of days after we had saw the movie. But, and we both said in that episode that, hey, for what we saw, we enjoyed it. And I think from my perspective was like, I was still listening to that bullshit spin that Warner Brother was saying, hey, this is, you know, we still are committed to Zack Snyder's vision of this movie. And then we saw it, we liked it. I pointed out the things. I said, wow, something didn't
weird.
seem,
Yeah,
something's
here.
weird. And then it was from that point on that I got sucked into all the, hey, man, this shit's really not right. They lied to us. And here's all the evidence. Here we are 2 years later. We have confirmation from the man himself that, yeah, his cut's done, and just it's up to Warner Brothers to, hey, whether they want to go on with it. And there's an article on Screen Rant, really encouraged checking out. Did all the math on this. His cut of Justice League is 3.5 hours long. And so technically, we've only seen 42% of what Snyder actually shot.
Holy shit.
What's in the theatrical version. So there's
part
like,
of me though too that's like, I don't know if I can sit through a 3.5 hour movie, but it is Justice League, so it could still be good.
So they're sitting on a gold mine
Yeah.
of content with world renowned characters.
Sure.
It's gonna happen.
I will. Okay, so
Go
I want to transition here since
Oh,
I
okay.
did talk about a few things. We did talk about a lot of different stuff here.
All
but
over the place.
I just want to just make a couple points about some stuff that I noticed in that Watchmen movie that were just like, very very short little things here.
Yeah.
One, there was a scene where the owl guy. See, this is so terrible. I can't remember their names.
Don't get mad at us. Like, look, I
think his name's Hal or something like that, but I
yeah.
can't remember his name. But and the new Silk Spectre or whatever her name is, the younger daughter.
Yep.
They decide, okay, now like we're at this point. Let's go out. Let's go fight some crime and stuff like that. And they get in their little ship and they see a building burning. They go there and they rescue the people. They very nice plot device of the water tower being on the top of the building, so that all he had to do was shoot it and then knock it over, and he puts out the fire. So very good.
Yep.
Then they save these kids, and there was just this. It's like, I'm sorry, but the scene was totally fucking unnecessary and just stupid to me when I saw it. And it was just like they're escorting everybody out, and as a superhero guy is wearing an owl costume, right? And this little girl looks at the camera and her mom, and she goes, "Mommy, is that man Jesus?" And I go, Jesus fucking Christ.
I like how you said Jesus.
Like, this was like unnecessary. And then the only other part of that movie that like I was like, this is kind of awkward and weird is the sex scene. That was like, it was just like, and the thing is, in the comic book, like, that is a very like, it's a very romantic moment. Like like the character, the guy, again, I fuck up his name, but like he is very much a bumbling, shitty, retired superhero by that point in the story. He's very depressed and down. He's sort of fat, chubby. They carried that over into the character. He looks that way. Like, he's strong, but he's sort of, like a dad bod. And then like he meets this younger girl who like, she's encouraging him to get back into the life of being a superhero and fighting crime and stuff, and they fall in love, and then they have sex. But the scene was done in this way that's like, when people hump in movies, it's always like belly button humping. They're always like humping this part of the torso instead of down there, because it's awkward.
It's a movie.
They got the dick sling on and all that stuff, and it's probably fucking awkward as hell.
Oh yeah.
And you're naked in front of people.
Yeah.
And then then they add the little bit of quipping. You said there's very little quipping in like his movies, but there's a little bit of quipping in that they're both like, oh, let's both have an orgasm, and then like they're getting to this point, and then like she like fumbles over and presses the fire like flamethrower on the ship. And I'm like, that's the ejaculation. Like quite,
you didn't know.
Quite literally. Like, there's some imagery in movies and in comic books and stuff that I'm like, yes, they're playing with stuff, they're poking fun at stuff, and I'm like, but I always like, I just go back to like, that was somebody's creative decision to like, wouldn't it be great, right, when he orgasms, press that button, and like, it's hilarious, and I'm like, those are like, see, to me, that's like completely nitpicky shit that I pick out of that, because it's just like tonally it changes a little bit for those type of movies, but it's not a bad movie because again, the changes that they had to make for things in Watchmen, which the biggest complaint for people were cutting out some of the side stories, which again he included in some longer cuts,
right,
And the ending, which the ending of Watchmen, spoiler, sorry, was instead of the movie, which is basically Ozymandias or whatever his name is, he convinces everybody that Dr. Manhattan had destroyed all of these different cities.
Right.
Like 1 million people killed all at once, right? In London and Paris, all this other stuff. And the only thing that they changed with that is in the comic book, he like warps some crazy alien from somewhere that they had genetically altered into the middle of Manhattan, and it just destroys everything. And that's they went from like basically a nuke or excuse me, a weird octopus thing to a nuke, and that's all they changed. And to some people that bothered the living shit out of them. And I remember when I first saw that movie, I was like, oh yeah, they changed that thing. And I was like, but yeah, they needed to. That was my reaction, because I was like, because why the fuck do I want like a squid thing in this movie after all of the stuff that happens up to that point and how serious it is? Like, to have this weird space creature thing show up at the end that no one had explained, but they did in the comic book.
Right.
It's like there's certain things about that movie that I'm like, I am grateful for the director taking a chance, for Zack Snyder and working with Dave Gibson, who was one of the co-writers on The Watchmen, to thematically put that entire series of comic books together in a movie.
Right.
And there are points when the action stops and stuff comes up that I go, okay, now we're into the second comic book. And then I look at the next part and I go, okay, now we're into the third comic book. And then now we're into the fourth comic book. We're getting to the end and everything.
That's cool.
And that's the cool reminder that I get from that movie. Some of the things I don't like about it, but like overall, like they attempted something that nobody else fucking tried to do, which is they put panel with some changes, a full comic book into a movie. And it's just, wow. Like, I can't even imagine just how fucking difficult that shit would have been. But
and that's on my, I've never read Watchmen. That's on my to-read list.
I gotta give it to you.
So
it's worth it.
Hand it up before I go. So, yeah, I know it's...
And the comic book is much more grounded in being a political critique about things that are going on in an alternate universe, whereas the movie is more like a struggle of, what does a superhero mean now? Especially, like... in terms of the crazy political times that they cast in that movie, that's really what that's about. But yeah, like for an attempt and what he tried to do, and again, all of like now that you've given me that perspective, I get that too. Like he created something that was exactly what comic book fans had probably been asking for decades and years of like, somebody make this movie exactly like the comic book, and they did that. And then he took all that sort of gritty nature of things into Man of Steel and all the other things that he ended up doing.
Right.
But it's fucked that, a lot of that stuff ended up getting changed just because of outside pressure, really, ultimately.
Yeah, so. The vocal minority, for whatever reason, scared the piss out of Warner Brothers, and then went to this creator and was like, hey, man, and what actually made me sad, and some other people had mentioned this too, especially from the panel, that, he had written his Justice League story, when they finished Batman vs. Superman, Justice League was already written.
Right.
Then... people shit on Batman vs. Superman, and Warner Brothers came to him and said, hey, I don't think we can do what you want to do.
Right.
And it made the creator question himself.
Right.
Like, oh my gosh, is what I want to do too crazy? And like, that's a little sad.
Not even the aspect of that too, but like these movies made a lot of fucking money.
Yeah.
All of them did.
That's the people say, oh no, nobody, everybody hated Batman vs. Superman. It's like, well, no, the critics and the blue check marks on Twitter and all these people didn't like it, but guess what? It still made it made $800 and some odd million.
And like any movie, I'm not saying that it's a good movie, but any movie is successful the moment that they make more money than what they put into it. So if they did that, if they put $100 million into a movie and they made $200 million, then that's a profit. They don't care at that point.
They were greedy. They were just greedy.
They wanted more money.
They wanted the Marvel money. They saw that and they're like, well, golly, we have to.
Because we have these characters too. Why not?
Yeah, we got to do it.
And I mean, even upcoming, we have the so there is no Jared Leto Joker movie, right?
As far as we know, no.
But there is the Joaquin Phoenix one coming up here too as well. So
I think that's next after Shazam. That one I think is next, which should be interesting.
I think you're right. If WB Warner Brothers goes into this and just decides, let's make standalone cool ass movies about these characters, show some shit about it that maybe we didn't explain in other movies. Even do a twist to those characters. Why not?
Yeah.
Even though this Joker movie is essentially a movie that we've seen before in animated versions and comic books and stuff like that too. Cool.
Who knows?
Let's do it. Because I want to see movies that are more or less just taking take a page out of your fucking comic books. In different comic books, the character is displayed in some different way. Be it a different situation. What was that one where like the Killing Joke was Joker was like in like beachwear and shit like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like there are ways to change the characters depending on the story in the film, and I'm hoping that movie turns out pretty good, but we'll have to see. So.
Yeah, we'll find out. It's going to be interesting times. At the end of the day, I mean, I think we covered all.
We talked a lot longer than I expected.
Yeah, this is a lot longer. But here, just to like shut this whole damn thing up, guess what, guys? Batman kills and Batman doesn't kill. There you go. That's the end. That's the end of the argument.
He's complex enough.
He's a complex individual. So, well, golly.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that was pretty good. You guys know the drill. GamesandGimmicks.com. Check out all of our stuff, all of our content. We got a lot of exciting things coming your way. Video content. You know. Just working that grind, getting stuff done when we can, as soon as we can, however we can. We got the G1 Super card coming out in New Japan, so stay tuned for. We're obviously going to have a review of that.
Excited.
I'm trying to get some gameplay in some new games that have come out or have been out and I haven't played yet. So we've got some talks about those coming up.
Yeah, and if there's ever anything good on PS Plus, maybe we'll talk about doing that again there too as well. But
absolutely,
it's been pretty dry the last year or so.
Absolutely,
that's why we stopped doing that. Thanks again for watching, and check out gamesandgimmicks.com for more stuff. And till then, we'll see you.
Yeah.